Well, welcome everyone to today's panel webinar on smart staffing strategies, how AI can help control labor costs in real time. My name is Jacob Emerson. I'm Associate News Director with Becker's Healthcare. We really appreciate our audience for taking the time to be with us today. So before we meet our panelists, I'm going to go over a few quick housekeeping instructions. We'll begin today's webinar with a panel discussion, and we'll have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. Today's event is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording at any time. And if at any time you have trouble with the audio, try refreshing your browser first. You can also submit any technical questions into the Q&A box. We're here to help at any time. So with that, I'd like to welcome our esteemed panel. We're thrilled today to be joined by Elaine Zemmel, who is a business analyst in nursing administration at Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital in Southern California, and Steve Thompson, who is the head of product at CareRev. So thank you both so much for taking the time to be with us. And before we get started, I want to give you both the time to introduce yourselves for us and tell us a little bit about your backgrounds in healthcare. So Steve, I will give the floor to you first.
Sure. Well, thanks for letting us join. I'm Steve Thompson. I'm the head of product here at CareRev. I've been in the software development industry for a few decades now, not to date myself, but I worked on Windows 95. I've been in large companies. I've been in small companies, worked on, concierge healthcare systems, and now here at CareRev. And for those of you who haven't heard of CareRev, we're an on-demand platform that empowers facilities to meet their dynamic staffing needs and also allows professionals to take control of their careers all in one place. So we kind of think of ourselves as a giant technology-backed float pool.
And Elaine, I'll go to you next.
Hi, so thanks so much for having me. My name is Elaine Zemmel, and I'm the business analyst in nursing administration here at Henry Mayo Hospital. We are a 357-bed level 2 trauma hospital in Valencia, California, which is located in Los Angeles County. We're also a STEMI receiving center and a stroke center. I have been with Henry Mayo for a decade. Prior to business analyst, I was systems analyst, and prior to that, I was staffing coordinator. So I have spent a lot of time in the nursing office. Although my role is non-patient facing, I contribute to safety and care of the patients in ensuring safe staffing in various ways. I handle hiring, compliance, timekeeping, and day-to-day operations of travelers and registry personnel in nursing units, peri-op, ancillary, allied health, as well as the various clinics we've had, including our COVID-19 clinic. I also worked heavily on implementation of Kronos Dimensions workforce management and Kronos extensions. Very happy to be here today. I hope that I can share some information about smart rates that will help other facilities.
Well, we really appreciate you both taking the time to be with us. And Elaine, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how this relationship between CareRev and Henry Mayo first came about, where it all started to develop.
Sure. So our partnership with CareRev started in February of 2020. Fortuitously right before the pandemic caused this nursing shortage that I think we're all still reeling from. To be honest, our intention of signing on with CareRev at the time was not caused by any substantial staffing shortages or specific pain points, but mostly we were just really intrigued by the technology. It was something totally different that we've ever seen. So basically, we made the decision to add it as an additional supplemental staffing agreement. Having such contracts in place do not cost any money, so really we're like, why not? I think our mentality at the time was better to have the staff and not need it than need it, not have it. Little did we know COVID-19 was right around the corner, so I guess perfect timing. Although the aftermath of the pandemic is still noticeable, nursing shortages are subsiding here at Henry Mayo, and I believe other facilities as well. We're hiring a lot of great nurses, but I still see our relationship with CareRev lasting for the long term for various reasons.
Yeah, so it sounds like it came about at the perfect time. Steve, I'd be curious your thoughts on why Henry Mayo was great to partner with.
Yeah, Henry Mayo is just as Elaine kind of articulated there, their needs are very dynamic, right? So they started off with, kind of maybe they have some needs, then they had a huge need. Now their need is kind of shifting down here. Our platform is specifically architected to allow for that. that allows big ebbs and flows in demand. As your census changes, our ability to fill those needs changes as well. The relationship, with the facility is actually, it's pretty special. They have been a great partner, especially, on the innovation front. Elaine mentioned there about, her work with, adapting, Chronos and working on the Dimensions platform. When a facility is really leaning in and embracing the possibility of their tech stack is a great fit for us for, how do we actually get the most out of your dollar there? Having a trusted relationship, like ours really helps. Like when we were actually initially developing, our platform and the smart rates algorithm here, they were number one, with giving us the feedback on this. Did it work? Did it not work? Can we try this? How does this adjust? And having that partnership in here where you kind of have customer zero that you're working with real time, it's a very special relationship.
Wonderful. That's really great to hear, Steve. And I want to back up for a sec before we go any further. And let's talk a little bit more about what AI is today in 2023. There's so many different conversations going on right now about this technology. So I'd love for you to define it for us and talk a little bit more about how CareRev specifically is using it to benefit facilities like Henry Mayo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. AI is a huge buzzword right now, and it means a ton of different things to pretty much everyone here. You think about your smart speakers, you think about, map guidance, you think about, autopilot in airplanes, you think about all of these things here. They've been around for a while, but it's really, really, really taken off here, mostly because it's kind of been democratized is what I call it. Like, you don't have to be a real deep data scientist learning, very bespoke applications to actually get that modeling to work here. So it's become a lot more available. But really, in its simplest form, AI is basically just using machines to process data faster than a human can. An AI can take in insane amounts of data and pattern match them in real time. People can do this too. So it's interesting when you think about AI. I mean, it is an intelligence, but it's, some people would say it's smarter. I don't think it is smarter. It's because we have to actually train that model based on the way that we think. And basically what it's doing, is taking in all that data, pattern matching it, processing it, looking through it, and looking at, hey, this is interesting, or this is interesting, or I found this kind of things. We can do that too. Like, we used to just call it, looking through the encyclopedia and trying to find some of these things here. But basically, the AI is just going through much faster, indexing all of those things. So, human beings, like I said, they can do it as well, but it takes a lot longer, and it's also prone to human error along the way, where a machine is a little bit more precise. So we actually built this really cool AI technology. We call it Smart Rates. And what it is it's basically the industry's first AI-based shift pricing system. It recommends what a facility should post for any given shift. So notice I said when recommends in there. So it's interesting. When we actually built the model here, we could actually go through all of the rates, go through all of the history, see which ones were in demand, which ones were maybe not so much in demand here, and say, like, this is probably what it would want to be. But what we did, so we built this fully automated version first, and then we added a feature that allows the schedule to accept the recommendation or not. So here's all of your choices. Here's what here's all your shifts. Here's all the rates. Here's all the choices. Now click accept for the ones that you want to take here based on, how the algorithms, created that there. There's been a lot of discussion on regulating AI now. Responsible use is really, really key. That's part of the reason why, we're members of the Responsible, Artificial Intelligence Institute. We recognize the need to keep the human being in the middle of anything that's AI generated here. That's why the recommender is such a good thing. Like, here's what it says, but it's not taking the action on your behalf. It's giving you suggestions that you can then accept and bring into your workflow.
It's so interesting. And it sounds like this is a very unique offering. And so, Elaine, I would love to ask you a little bit more about Smart Rates, where you all have put this to use. What have been the benefits of using CareRev and its systems, its AI-enabled systems like Smart Rates at Henry Mayo? How is this technology helping to optimize spending and overall improve the bottom line at the hospital?
Sure. So smart rates went live at the beginning of fiscal year 2023. So basically October 2022. Since day of implementation of smart rates to today, we have saved approximately 5%. Now that may not seem like a huge number, but on the monetary scale that we're talking about today, it's a really great number. Some months we have more than 5% savings, some months a little less, but it's always a savings. Honestly, I would have been happy with 1%. Anything I can do to save money for the organization while improving safe staffing, I'm all for it. The cost effectiveness of smart rates is great. However, I think my favorite takeaway from smart rates is not only the savings, but how fast our shifts are filled from day of implementation to today. Shifts are filled 45% faster than before smart rates. As far as amount of shifts filled, that's increased by 10% with smart rates. So all data points have improved. There's been nothing in the red, it's all green. So to me, that's already a win. Smart rate shifts are filled during the first 10% of their lifespan on the CareRev marketplace. Manually boosted shifts are filled in the first 20% of their lifespan on the marketplace. So smart rates has really improved our fill rates, speeds. If you're in nursing administration like I am, you know how important it is to let that staffing coordinator know, hey, we got you a nurse, and it's quicker because assignments are done, patients are given to those nurses. So it really helps us optimize our staffing, just knowing that we have that shift filled quicker. So.
Yeah, those are some really amazing numbers. 45% higher fill rates and a 5% savings in less than a year. Yeah. Steve, industry-wide, what are you seeing in terms of when hospitals utilize this technology?
Yeah, I think, where it's being utilized most is exactly in the areas when you have goals around, cost savings and fill management, exactly what Elaine articulated there. It's a really great fit because what Smart Rates does is it basically predicts the shifts that are going to be hard to fill, and it bumps up that rate right away. And what that does, it's interesting. It actually, it sounds like, well, you're bumping up rates here, but what it does is it's anticipating that in advance and putting it at a more appealing rate to a professional, which is actually causing, it's eliminating the need to pump up the shifts way later. So like what Elaine says, like if you have these shifts that are sitting out there for a long time, nobody's actually filling those things. Oh, I have to boost it until somebody comes and takes it. That actually trains individuals to wait until later versus saying, hey, wait a minute, this thing is actually at the right value right now, so I'm going to take it. But kind of more importantly, what it does is it looks at the shifts that are a little bit more easy to fill, like your daytime shifts between Tuesday and Thursday. People like those shifts, right? So should you pay the same rate as you should do, nights and holidays? And no, you shouldn't. So, Smart Rates is intelligent enough that it goes through and it recommends a reduced rate. So you boost less by, proactively managing that rate. And because you're doing that, the fill, obviously, like what Eric mentioned here, it's a more attractive rate. So, pros are picking them up way quicker. I think, the other piece that kind of goes along with that is the stress reduction that goes along the way. Managing rates and managing these pools here is really, really hard. So what Smart Rates does is it takes a lot of the stress out of the shift posting. It gives schedulers the data they need to make an informed decision and have confidence that they're not paying too much. And it's right available in the application. It's just there. You don't have to go look it up. You don't have to, find your friend who's a data scientist to go look at modeling for you. It's all right there for you in the application.
That's a great point, Steve. This isn't just a financial benefit, but there's a human side to the administrative piece of this as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Now more than ever, productivity is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Every organization and anything we can do just to turn that dial a little bit is a huge benefit.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. You said every organization. So beyond hospitals, what's the appeal here? Can any organization benefit from this AI tool from using Smart Rates?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. And we've been able to prove that out. we've seen success across the board, regardless of the facility side. It works for huge multi-hospital systems down to really small local facilities. I was meeting with a customer not too long ago. It's a smaller skilled nursing facility, and they're using smart rates. Ambulatory surgery centers, assisted life facilities, they're all kind of part of the pool in here that we've leveraged it for. And what's interesting, we actually across the board, we're saving right now about 18%. On labor costs across the entire pool, and filling shifts. Elaine's right there in the pattern here, with about 50% faster is what we're seeing compared to the manually priced shifts. So it's working for everybody. The interesting thing is, we've actually also built this automated dashboard that is actually embedded into the application, and all you have to do is post 10 shifts into it. And then by the time you've posted the 10 shifts, utilizing smart rates, it's learning and it's starting to pick up. So when you talk about, any organization, you don't need tens of thousands of shifts. It gets smarter the way you go, the more that you put into it. But just having that first 10, you'll start seeing the dashboard start populating, and then you'll be able to see what's happening in real time. So, when we first partnered with Elaine, we wanted to make sure that, she was getting the best result out of it. So kind of proving out and building that dashboard along, provides really good visibility regardless of the size of the organization. So, we're pretty customer obsessed, at CareRev. So, we know cost savings is more than critical, especially with your limited staff, and, anything we can do in any organization that helps save time, making better decisions with data is super critical. We looked at this, and it wasn't just specific to certain markets here, but, we saw facilities were chronically boosting their rates to try to attract professionals, and said, there has to be a better way for this. Like I said, our technology being, built the way that it is, we're proactively pattern recognizing, and there's been a huge benefit to customers across the board.
Well, I love what I'm hearing about smart rates and CareRev broadly, but Steve, I do want to switch thoughts for a second and talk a little bit about the resistance in healthcare that we can often see to new technology adoptions. So how can companies address these concerns and ensure that the people on the ground providing the care feel comfortable using this new technology that may change their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think anybody who's in this industry, whether you're on the facility side, the facilities IT side, or even on the technology side, we've seen a lot of failed attempts where somebody tried to take a technology solution and wedge it in and say this is going to be the way that it works. And there's tremendous amount of change management that goes along with that. Where I think, anybody, it doesn't matter what solution you're trying to adopt here, it's really critical just to start with the problem you're trying to solve and then start working backwards into the solution. I myself have bought technology solutions before, and it's like, oh my gosh, this workflow doesn't look like us. Like we don't operate that way. This isn't going to work. It's really important to understand what that problem is and then make those decisions along the way, with something that's flexible enough. Not dictatorial in the way that it needs to be rolled out. As part of that change management, it's also super important to get stakeholder alignment up front. And make sure that you have a specific use case and have a predetermined, ROI, the return on investment, really, really locked down tight. Make sure that, your IT partners are on board, your leadership is on board, but probably most importantly here is, you're impacting the lives of the folks. I always call it hands on keyboard. There are people who are actually inputting the data, working with the system. Are they on board? Do they believe it? Are they going to champion it? And are they going to, see the value in it? Is it going to make their lives better? You kind of have to think about all of these things before you just say, hey, we're going to go digitize our whole business. Deeply understanding the problem here is super critical. I think there's also, make sure you're following good standards and protocols. Like there's certain ways of doing things, certain ways, you don't do things. Like we believe in a lot of standards and, and consistent ways of doing it and playbooks and being able to kind of roll that out. But I think that probably the biggest thing here is making sure that you can report on the performance of the technology. Like, are you getting the value that you thought you were going to get out of this? And being very specific about what does success look like, right up front, and then being hyper focused on what that looks like. I'd love to hear more about what Elaine's thoughts are on this as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to bounce off a little bit, what you said is there's not often resistance. There is always resistance to new technology adoption in healthcare. And I get it and I can relate. But I think what we need to remind ourselves is stop customizing available software to be designed around your workarounds. Stop customizing it to do workarounds. What we need to do is change our existing processes or nix those workarounds by utilizing the technology that's available to us today. And I think that's what we've done with smart rates. One concern that we did have was, will this cost us more money? As we talked about earlier, it has totally saved us money. I don't think there was 1 month where we actually went in the red. So that was nixed pretty quick. One concern that we also had was boosting. What happens if Elaine is on vacation and she needs to boost a shift? Well, I can do it from my phone. So very easy. We pulled access from everybody to manually boost. And so now only I can do it. And luckily with CareRev being app-based, a couple clicks away. So that didn't cost me any more time. Also, another concern was, will this cost Elaine more time reconciling the general ledger for contracted labor? So one of the things that I do each month is I reconcile the contracted labor in our general ledger. So I need to make sure that the general ledger matches up with what accounts payable is paying our agencies. I figured with all the different rates, it might become difficult, but the great thing is with smart rates, there is a nifty CSV file. So I can get that whenever I need. It doesn't just have smart rate data in it. It has all data coming from CareRev. So it makes my life a lot easier. So again, I've saved time and I've saved the organization money. My advice to healthcare facilities that are on the fence about adopting smart rates, just give it a chance. It's totally customizable to your facility. If it doesn't yield cost savings, or it doesn't make, if it doesn't take time away from your folks, then you can just turn it off. Simple as that.
Being customer obsessed and trying to solve problems here, that work that you're doing and just kind of matching the invoices here, this is another area that we've actually been working on and have rolled it out with a couple of customers here, where we're actually doing a validation between what's in your system and then what's in our system, and looking at that real time and balancing that out. So it's, again, taking another manual process that you're doing every day and trying to apply machines to go do that, trying to take that heavy lift off. So we should follow up about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, some really great advice coming from you both. I really appreciate the details. Steve, naturally, I got to ask, are there specific integrations, systems that facilities are going to need to adopt this tech in order to be more successful with smart rates, or just AI in general? What are some of the considerations that you're hearing from systems when they're looking to implement this type of technology in their facility?
Yeah, that's a great question, because honestly, like, a lot of integrations come in many, many different flavors. Some are very difficult, some are very easy. For this particular use case that we're talking about here, the barriers actually aren't super high. Smart Rates doesn't require a heavy lift from your IT department. It basically just operates with data it's generated by itself. So, there is no integration, there is no tie-in point that's really required. And all of that basically comes standard within our application. So you don't even really need to tie into anything there. However, your question was a little bit more broad. So, for AI in general, there are huge benefits to being able to do data science work with data from, another facility system, to improve the analysis and make other recommendations. Like, the more data that you can put into it, the smarter it gets. Our platform, the way that we've architected it here, it was built with that kind of extensibility in mind from day one. We knew that being able to connect deeper in here was going to be very, very important to us. So we can connect through modern APIs. If a system has an API that's already set up and that's really easy, IT just basically gives us access to that. We super secure, compliant platform and whatnot. We go through all of those testing and whatnot. Happy to talk about that. But bringing that data in, but we can also push the data back, through an API integration like that. So, even things with scheduling, like how are you doing? Are you doing it here or are you doing it here? Well, it really shouldn't matter. You just do it one place and everything just kind of federates, all together here. So we kind of built with that, in mind. We've also, we can do the custom connector route, like if something doesn't have an API, it's sitting on an on-premise server somewhere. There's bespoke connectors that we built, other ones that you can buy, they bring our systems all together here. Or then, honestly, some of these integrations, like I said, different flavors, some of these is it's just a flat file that's being passed. You just drop it into a bucket. We're able to do our work in here and give you something back here. It's all a matter of kind of timeliness of the data, and what system you're actually looking at. So there's a lot of different flavors for those integrations, but we're tied into time tracking systems, scheduling systems, all kinds of things. The more data you bring in, the better your predictions and the better the picture that you're actually able to get about what's happening within your organization. We like to think about this as an intelligent workforce management platform, honestly, because it just gets smarter and smarter all the time. I don't want to give away too much, on our future roadmap, but we are piloting some pretty deep integrations with other systems, that we'll be doing some, advanced predictions, automating workflows, and, like I said, just making facilities smarter and more productive.
Elaine, I'll turn it to you. What did it take to get Henry Mayo ready to implement smart rates?
Yeah, implementation was extremely smooth for us. So we picked a go live date. And basically the folks at CareRev said, okay, Elaine and staffers, for the next 2 weeks, just do what you always do. The AI will learn your posting habits, your boosting habits, what shifts are getting filled faster or slower, what shifts are not being filled at all, and so on. So we posted the shifts when needed, boosted if we had to. We went about our business. After 2 weeks, the smart rates was off and running. If I found something that looked weird, for lack of a better word, or if something looked like an anomaly, I would just simply screenshot it and send it to my team at CareRev. We'd speak about it during our weekly check-ins. I definitely learned to trust in the software when I discovered that smart rates was 1, saving us money, 2, allowing us to fill the shifts faster, and 3, more shifts are being filled. So basically, you just have to take off the seatbelt, let the stuff do its thing, and it worked. But we did have that.
Sounds like a triple whammy.
Yeah, and we had our weekly check-ins, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Sure. Well, maybe you could expand a little bit on some of the best practices or strategies that you all found in those first few weeks, maybe even in the first few months of deploying this technology, and what really made it a success for you all.
Yes. So like in all things in life, good communication is one of the most important practices for deployment of smart rates to ensure its success. Make sure that you have everybody on board. So staffing coordinators, your nursing supervisors, your finance team, your leadership, nursing and executive, and make sure that you have everyone's support and that they know that this is going live, what it entails. In a nutshell, they don't need to know every aspect. Like Steve said, its implementation didn't really take much from our team, but definitely keep everybody on board. And another thing is communication with your CareRev team. So I highly suggest a weekly check-in with CareRev. To be honest, our go live was 9 months ago, but we keep a weekly check-in on the calendar to go over numbers about smart rate savings, fill speeds, return on labor expenses, cancellations, and other CareRev information. We also use this time to just go over staffing, how it's been as a whole, what features we'd like to see in the future, changes to credentialing requirements, any foreseeable staffing challenges or changes. I mean, with how quickly healthcare evolves, it is so important for agencies like CareRev to stay engaged with facilities who utilize the platform. And another thing I'd like to add, and this to me is very important, Smart Rates is not a way to give your favorite pros more money for their shifts. For instance, if a pro says to me, hey, Elaine, I saw there was a shift posted a higher rate a couple days ago, I'll pick up that open shift if I have that rate. The answer is no. Shut that down. And once it's nipped in the bud, you probably won't get asked it again. But it is something that I wanted to share.
So Steve, any add-ons there you want to mention in terms of best practices, best strategies for deploying this technology across any facility?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things that come to mind, actually. I mean, first is, looking at your culture. Are you a forward-leaning organization, or do you just kind of like things the way that they are? Do you dream of a better day? You have to really gauge your appetite for innovation. Asking questions about, how could technology work for you? How does it fit into your operations? And honestly, just being super clear about what you need help with. It's also, really important to, have that trusting relationship developed here. We've talked a lot about that in this call today. You want to find the right partner, in your provider here, someone that understands your specific needs. We aren't a generic, AI vendor. We're in the same business with some other folks here, but, we're focused on healthcare staffing. That's what we do. AI can be, like we mentioned before, AI can be super confusing. And we don't mind, just, meeting you where you're at and getting you up to speed. Like, what is it? What do you need to achieve? What are your goals here? Which is, it's the third thing. I mentioned this before, like, what's your success metric? Being ruthless about ensuring that you're making progress towards that. If the answer is productivity, cost, time savings, and all the rest of that stuff, yeah, there's an option out there for you, and we feel pretty strongly about it.
Wonderful. Well, Elaine, I do want to come back to you after everything we've discussed about the implementation of Smart Rates and the clear results you've achieved at your facility. Are any additional challenges you foresee that potentially could be addressed in the coming years using this technology that we haven't gotten a chance to mention yet today?
Yeah, so I think because the majority of my role includes working in Kronos, I'd like to see what integrations are available in the future. Obviously, we already spoke about integrations, but to ensure accuracy and timekeeping at Henry Mayo, the hours that are being captured by our CareRev pros and actually every contracted labor, everybody's in Kronos as if they were a regular employee. So basically that's half the battle of an integration that's already there. So I'd really like to take advantage of that and see what other integrations we can do. I think they'd be fairly easy to do. And then also there's some great dashboards in CareRev. I already mess around with them all the time, but I'd like to see some on-demand access of all the data within CareRev on my dashboard. So basically I have the weekly check-in meetings, and I just want to be able to have that on demand. So if I get up in the middle of the night and I want to work on some spreadsheets, they're already there. The graphs are already there for me. So that's definitely something that I'd like to see.
Yeah, really good thoughts. And Steve, I'd love yours as well. Any challenges? I know you hinted at this earlier. So any challenges you believe could be addressed in the coming years through Smart Rates and other AI tech?
Yeah, I think the rates is a huge one, and we spent a bunch of time talking about that. I think, and we're looking at some other opportunities here, just like what Elaine said, is like being able to take the professionals that we have and actually get them automatically integrated real time with an HRIS system. That's a really key integration here as well. When you think about kind of the activation, the onboarding, precepting, that whole provisioning type of process here, that's a pretty manual one. That's very much a great opportunity for automation in there. The other one is around demand. honestly, when because Elaine mentioned, here's all the shifts, here's all the people in Chronos, but how do we think about census data? How do we think about demand? How do we think about automating some of those things? So that actually just comes into that kind of universal view of all of your workforce and says, okay, yeah, here's my staff, here's all of my needs are in the future here. Here's all the holes, and then here's how we should probably fill that. We're thinking about stuff like that, and I think these deeper integrations will allow us to go down that path.
So interesting conversations to come in the future, it sounds like. But in the interest of time, I do want to shift us over to a few audience questions for our Q&A session. A quick reminder to anyone in the audience to type any questions you have for our speakers into the Q&A box located on your webinar console. Any questions that we don't have time to answer today will receive an email follow-up. So with that, Elaine, wondering how smart rates offer a competitive edge to Henry Mayo in terms of financial management specifically. I know we've gone over a lot of the great results you've achieved, so maybe we could talk a little bit more about how smart rates is really helping Henry Mayo stand out above others.
Yeah, so utilizing CareRev and the smart rate technology and the success that smart rate technology has given us, it gives us the competitive edge in terms of financial management, in that it allows us to reduce costs by lowering our need to rely on travelers. And I know this is not just a Henry Mayo problem right now. Everybody is still dealing with the nursing shortage. I talk to my friends at other hospitals, so I know that it's still a problem throughout California and probably other areas, but healthcare facilities are extremely tired of being stuck in lengthy travel contracts for sometimes even 13 weeks or more, especially with the fluctuating census that this summer is bringing. Here's what I've been noticing lately. I see numerous articles and buzz about agencies like CareRev and similar, and how great they are for the nurse and how flexible it is for the nurse. And oh, it's great, you work when you want, you're off when you want, so much freedom, so much flexibility, great pay. I totally agree with that. But what the journalists are failing to mention most of the time is how great this is for the healthcare facility. We too have the flexibility. We have the edge now. When our census or acuity drops and now we're overstaffed, we're not canceling our own staff. Nope. We're canceling registry nurses, and that includes CareRev professionals. This also allows us to put our employees first while cutting costs significantly. So CareRev has definitely been pivotal in lowering the traveler usage here. And I can say from experience, nothing hurts more than a nurse being canceled and a traveler working. So with this, it's really boosted morale while saving us a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, that this isn't just benefiting the nurse, this is benefiting the whole hospital, the whole system.
Yeah.
Steve, any thoughts here on how this technology, how smart rates is giving a competitive edge to all facilities that use it?
Yeah, it definitely is a competitive edge. I mean, I don't think I can say this much better than Elaine just articulated here. But if cost savings is top of mind for you and is part of your strategy here, it fits really, really, really well. And like I said, it doesn't matter what the size of the facility, 10 shifts is all it takes, to put it through, and it gets smarter and smarter and smarter along the way. And I think just having the confidence to know you're doing the right thing. This is it's a huge boost, and even on the productivity side.
So Elaine, I wanted to go back to something that you had said earlier, that there is always going to be some pushback, some frustration with implementing new technology into your hospital. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you've really helped any holdouts on your team, any of those remaining members, adapt to this implementation of smart rates and making sure that this is successful for everybody and not just the majority of your team?
Yeah, although implementation went smooth, our go live for smart rates, one of the adjustments I think was the hardest to get used to was our staffing coordinators. We removed all their access to boost shifts manually. So even now, I'm the only one that can boost the shifts, but I think that was kind of one of the things that they had to get used to. The aspect that I think took them time was they didn't trust the software. So unfortunately, they're not on the meeting with me every week that says, hey, Elaine, here's your data, here's what you're saving, here's how fast it is. They're not seeing that. They're seeing, oh my God, I'm short a nurse here, I have to get it. Elaine, can you boost a shift? They just had to learn how to trust the software. Luckily, my leadership team, they pretty much said, Elaine, we trust you to make good, sound decisions financially for the hospital. So I didn't have any pushback there. And as soon as I report the data to them, they weren't even surprised. They figured that it would be that way. But I believe it's best practice. I know we spoke about best practices, but I want to just say it's best practice to limit the users who can manually boost shifts, especially in the beginning. Like Steve said, it only needs a few shifts to learn, but I feel like the more smart rate data you have, the better your AI will work in terms of your hospital. So the nice thing is it doesn't take market data from this hospital or market data from this town over or California as a whole. It's literally data that's tailored to your hospital. So just getting your team to trust how everything's working, I think, is most important and the biggest battle. But probably I would have done it a little different. I would have just communicated with my staffing coordinators a little bit better and maybe included them more on those weekly check-in meetings.
Well, Elaine, that's a great point on how customizable this really is for each individual facility. So, Steve, that leads me to our next and final question from the audience. Obviously, CareRev, Smart Rates, it's technology that's been noted for its ability to suggest the rates. So to what extent can it really be personalized to each facility, as Elaine was talking about? And is there any specific information that it relies on to generate those recommendations?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think, the whole idea, and it doesn't matter whether you're looking at gig workers or, what kind of contingent staff you're looking to bring in, there's a rate that's associated with them, right? And typically, there's an upfront kind of contract negotiation, what that rate wants to be, and all the rest of that stuff that goes on with it. That's based on a point in time. And it may reflect, benchmark data, regional data, what have you. There's a lot of different factors that kind of go in there and define that. But what ends up happening is, like what Elaine talked about, it's locked in for the, the term of the contract. Where Smart Rates is better is it's okay, we start here, but then you learn and you get smarter. Like, this is based on your population and your behaviors and what's happening with your census. It's always looking at, the shifts that you're posting, and it's very dynamic in that way. So like the customization, it kind of creates that on its own. It's not like somebody has to continually go on and, do surveys and do more market data and everything else like that. It's kind of generating it on its own, and it's looking at real-time behaviors, which, it's very focused on your facility. Now, one of the things that we didn't mention, before, is you can also set parameters around that. If you want to let it swing, 30, 40%, fine, you can do that. You want to let it swing so it's only plus or minus 10%, can do that. You want to say, that I don't accept or, don't show anything that looks like a boosted rate, and I only want to look at saved rates. Yeah, you can do that too. So like all of those features are kind of built into this that allows the flexibility for you to tailor, your own facility's goals and make sure that those are met in there. So, although it's a broad system here, it doesn't come with a preconceived package of this is the way that it's going to work. It learns, as it goes along. It takes the data, what we've seen thus far, and then just continues to get smarter and smarter along the way.
Wonderful. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. So Steve, Elaine, thank you so much for your excellent insights, and to CareRev for sponsoring today's webinar.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
To learn more about the content presented today, please fill out the post-webinar survey. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us here at Becker's Healthcare, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.